We're going over System Concepts, Article 33, Egoism in the Work, Part 4. The spiritual society is blind to any phases beyond mutual guarantee. Their passive work of collecting discernments does not allow them, as a collective, to advance forward. Only individuals can continue to develop depending on their internal awakening. Obstinate desires. At some point in our enjoyment of the mutual guarantee phase, we hit a brick wall. We feel like we have not made any spiritual progress. We had hoped that some minimal spiritual connection would have been revealed. However, while we might feel moments of enlightenment, they steadily decrease. We fall into self-victimization and blame either the society or ourselves for our failure to advance. This gives us great filling that keeps us locked in this phase. Instead of eating our own flesh, we need to realize that staying in our emotions is called the animal degree. The human degree has emotions but rises above them to collect discernments. It is crucial to connect with friends who will ignore our justification of our current miserable state and help us rise to our next state. And here's a quote. Hence they are doomed by nature, since nature's laws will punish them because they do not adapt to obeying its commands, performing these acts of bestowal upon others in the form of work for the Creator, to achieve through it to the purpose of creation, to be with him. It was explained in the article Matan Torah, item 6, that this dvekut comes to the worker in the measure of his pleasant and pleasurable bounty, which increases up to the desired measure for rising to know meaninglessness, but developing until he is rewarded with the excessiveness implied in the words, neither hath the eye seen a God beside thee. And imagine that the farmer and the worker were to sense this goal before them while working for the well-being of society. They would certainly not need any supervisors, since they would already have sufficient motivation for a great effort, enough to raise society to the ultimate happiness. Indeed, understanding that in such a way requires great care and proven conduct. But everyone can see that without it, they have no right to exist from the perspective of the obstinate, uncompromising nature. And this is what I wanted to prove here. The article The Peace by Balasunam. Blaming the Creator is also a futile attempt. It is important to accept the emptiness and understand the solution is always the spirit phase after the darkness. The reason we feel distanced from the spiritual society is not because of any wrongdoing. It is because our passive point, deficiency in the heart, egoism, has been upgraded to an active point in the heart. We feel that we need to actively participate in our advancement. These desires for self-victimization are called obstinate desires. They are considered the darkness desires of the spiritual society, phase 2.3. Cleaning desires. The problem for our lack of advancement is to realize that our understanding of basic concepts, such as bestowal, love, friends, and egoism, are very immature. They do not match the definitions that the Kabbalists refer to when expressing their material. Here's a quote. Furthermore, since man knows his mind, which is a true conclusion from life's experiences, he can therefore receive knowledge and understanding from a trusted person and take it as law, although his life's events have not yet revealed these concepts to him. It is like a person who asks the advice of a doctor and obeys him even though he understands nothing with his own mind. Thus, one uses the mind of others no less than one uses one's own. As we have clarified above, there are two ways for providence to make sure certain that man achieves the good final goal. A, the path of pain. B, the path of Torah. All the clarity in the path of Torah stems from that. For these clear conceptions that were revealed and recognized after a long chain of events in the lives of the prophets and the men of God, there comes a man who fully utilizes them and benefits from them, as though these concepts were events of his own life. Thus you see that one is exempted from all the ordeals one must experience before he can develop that clear mind by himself. Thus, one saves both time and pain. It can be compared to a sick man who does not wish to obey the doctor's orders before he understands by himself how that advice will cure him, and therefore begins to study medicine. He could die of his illness before he learns medicine. So is the path of pain versus the path of Torah. One who does not believe the concepts that the Torah and prophecy advise him to accept without self-understanding must come to these conceptions by himself, by following the chain of cause and effect from life's events. These are the experiences that greatly rush and can develop the sense of recognition of evil in them, as we have seen, without one's choice, but because of one's effort to acquire a good environment which leads to these thoughts and actions. From the article The Freedom by Bala Sulam. This is the phase where we start to clean our concepts. We join a group whose goal is to purify each member's definitions in order to cross the spiritual barrier. We start to reactivate our egoism that we have previously shunned. We begin to understand its active role in our development. These desires for redefining concepts with mature discernments are called cleaning desires. They are considered the spirit desires of the spiritual society, phase 2.4. And here's the first workshop question. Number 1, how do we avoid slipping into self-pity? Mary.
By having faith in the system and, realizing that these situations are given to us to advance and to, if they cause tension, to use that tension to advance, to want to move forward. And that's all I have for now. Next.
Mark.
By realizing that self-pity will get us nowhere, that we can't advance, we can't learn anything from this. It's a shell. It's something that I enjoy, I'm comfortable with, and that's why I have this environment. That's why I have an environment of these friends to bring this out, to open this up, to realize where I'm at, and to seek help. Let's clean some concepts. Let's talk about things. Get me out of my shell of self-pity. But I can only do this through this environment.
Maria.
I would say that if I'm in a state where I am playing the victim or self-pitying or not worthy and so forth, it is clearly idol worshiping, and it's put there for the purpose. It's okay to have it there, but to identify it and to see it as an opportunity to wake up, to get out of the shell, to not be absorbed by that, and use it instead to want to not stay in that state.
Moshe.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into self-pity just because it is filling and it's comfortable, and we don't want to advance just because our next state is always going to be uncomfortable for us, and it's very easy to just be somewhere, we're comfortable. Obviously, the way we avoid it is, of course, through the environment, through the friends, and it's about being vulnerable to them and allowing them to let you know when you've stalled and that you haven't advanced and that you need to advance and need to get back on the horse. And it's about really being vulnerable to them and becoming, this one with them.
Rick.
Got to come to the realization that self-pity or chasing concepts that you think you know the answer to need to be scrutinized, and you can't do it alone. You need to do it with your friends, with your group. And when you're trying to be the victim, your friends in the group will pull you out of that. They'll show you that you are just locking yourself into a loop to where you think you have an answer when you have none at all. And the answer isn't that The answer isn't that you're going to come to a solution that you might appreciate and like. It may be something that you hate, and you have to accept that. Thank you.
Robin.
You have to go above reason, and in this case, above your emotion that's within reason, to with faith, faith above reason, to pull yourself out. You've got to realize that there's a higher state for you, and that's what you need to focus on.
The thing to understand about self-pity is that it gives us a lot of feeling, gives us a lot of pleasure. Being in a victim state is very enjoyable for a person because it makes them feel that they're alive. It makes them feel that, oh, if something's wrong, dead people don't feel things that are wrong. Only people which are alive feel things that are wrong. They can really get so involved in that enjoyment of being scared. It's like when people go to watch thrillers or dramas. Why do they watch them? They like getting scared. They like getting the tension. And the idea is to sort of not get yourself so enveloped in it that you sort of stay there. And that's why, you definitely need the group to help you, stay out of self-pity. The second question, why do we need to clean our concepts? Maria.
Why do we need to clean our concepts? We are trained to, in order for us to seemingly influence reality, we are trained to decode what is happening. And obviously, if we're entering or hitting a wall or having pity or feel that there's a contradiction, there needs to be a cleaning there. That means that the script that I'm actually playing is incorrect. And so that's the whole point. Recognize that the current way that I'm viewing a concept is not correct. It's clearly needs some cleaning. And that's the whole point. In order for us to go from immature to mature, we have to realize, first of all, okay, this is an immature concept. It needs cleaning in order to go on.
Mary.
We need to clean concepts so that we can, get into alignment and work toward it, continually work toward it, and to be able to eventually teach others or influence others. We need to be clear as to, there's so many concepts, but how the system works and the structure and all of that, so that we can eventually explain it to others, but understand it ourselves first, correct ourselves first.
Mark.
We come from a non-spiritual society, and as we learn, as we grow in this, we realize that the goal, the ultimate goal, is only achieved through having the correct concepts, and we realize that what we thought before is very immature, and that we are not seeing things correctly. That's why we come to this society. This is why we have this goal, and this is why we have this environment and friends to help us clean these concepts so we can come closer to the goal.
Moshe.
Well, the reason we clean concepts is so we can advance. Quite simply, cleaning concepts in itself is basically just maturing your perception. So the more we clean our concepts, the more our perception awakens and sort of gets bigger and bigger and better and gets an upgrade every time. So, the more we clean our concepts, the more we advance. And the more we advance and come to, a final state of correction and the correction, then we can start helping others do the same.
Rick.
Cleaning of your concepts is bringing your left line into your right line, mingling them together to get a more aligned concept concept, a more mature concept that is in line with the system, the creator. We do this by working with each other and seeing it objectively through our friend's eyes. Thank you.
Robin.
With unclean concepts, you stay where you are. As you clean concepts, you attain more. Your perception gets stronger. You grow. Your comprehension, your perspective changes. So you have to do it, and you can't do it alone. You have to do it in a group, because you pretty much, your concepts as they stand are cleaned according to your own experience, but you can't have all the experiences. You don't get all the angles. You get stuck in your own perception and understanding, and you have to have the help of the group to completely clean yourself.
The reason we need to clean our concepts is because when we're told to do things, we are born with a very immature understanding of many words. And then when we're told to do something, we think we've done it. And then like they ask, did you do it? And like, yes, you did it. But what you understood what you had to do and what they meant when they said to you to do something are totally different. So for example, someone could say, did you love your children? And one parent will say, yeah, of course I love my children. So, and then someone will say, but what did you actually do? They're like, oh, I gave my children everything. I did everything that my children wanted. And then the person would say, that's not called loving your children. That's making them into spoiled brats. To love your children means to control their environment and make their environment the best possible so they can actually advance and learn and grow. And you need to sort of put on one hand limitations on the children, but give them that illusion that they have freedom, that they could do whatever they want. And that is called love. So the reason why we constantly have to clean our concepts in Kabbalah is because our initial understanding of concepts are incorrect, they're very immature, and they have to be matured by the group to constantly give new views and more mature opinions on different definitions of words and concepts. The third question, what is the group? Maria.
I would say the group is the laundromat. Basically, we come together and agree that we start with the premise that we know we need cleaning in order to advance, and we are here to help each other clean these concepts together. There's so many times that if I'm in the middle of something, I don't necessarily have an objective view, where others are helping me clearly see, look, this is what's going on, and I can clean the concept accordingly. So basically, a group is that place where we will come to well, first we have to be willing to be absorbed by the environment. I can come, but if I'm not using it appropriately, I'm still not going to get the cleaning. So I have to agree that I'm going to be vulnerable to that cleaning as well. But nonetheless, we're here. A group is where we come to clean our concepts.
Mary.
And in addition to that, it's the environment that we put ourselves in, that with others that have the same goal and the same desire, and we a place where we can support each other's efforts while working on our own, and participate in it, be a part of it, and share and maintain our focus, and really focus on advancement, not a social club. It's an advancement club. It's an advancement environment, and the group is a place where we take that seriously. Next.
Mark.
What Mary said, it's a gathering of like-minded individuals with a common goal, and everything that Mary and Maria just said. That was so beautiful. Thank you.
Moshe.
Yeah, it's basically a melting pot, like we've said. It's a melting pot of perceptions, and basically our job is to use the group correctly, and sort of clean our concepts through the group's perception. And we may not agree with them, but that's fine. Criticism is welcome, and that's part of the process. And the more opposites in perception that we see, the more we can unify them and make them one perception.
Rick.
The group's many things. It's the place where you get the tools to take and change yourself through scrutiny and discernment. It's a place you get to see yourself reflected back to you with different concepts, attitudes, attributes. It's the place where you find yourself turning when the bottom's falling out. It's the place that you put your trust and support of the others. Thank you.
Robin.
About all I can add is that everyone in the group is after the same thing, and that's true sustenance, which is how our perception changes. Everybody has the same goal, and that's the pursuit. And the group makes it happen. It really works.
The group, one of the fundamentals of the group is that every member that comes to the group has to come for the goal of their own advancement. So they're not coming to the group to help others in the group. They're coming to the group to empower themselves, to advance for themselves. And because they come to the group, you've basically got that circulation where they're coming to the group to clean their concepts. So they're being vulnerable to the group to allow them to clean their definitions and stuff. But they're doing it in order to actually receive advancement. And that causes sort of a circulation of egoism, and really makes the group strong, empowered, and more like sustainable over time than if you don't come to the group for an egoistic purpose of advancing. And then the group will tend to be very kumbaya and very sort of lovely and nice, but has no substance in it. So what gives the substance in the group is actually the ego that we invest by coming to the group to clean our concepts. What do you think of the article?
I like the article a lot. It's very clear. It's definitive. It's easy to read. It's easy to understand. It's concise, and it adds a lot of clarity to what we're attempting to do. So I liked it a lot, Kai. You did a good job.
I like it also. It really focuses on that transition between not knowing what to do, feeling lost, and finally finding the way of what to do, which is to clean concepts.
And it's great, we don't even know that we have concepts that need cleaning unless we sometimes hit the wall and then are forced to keep looking and asking questions, and we're just driven to get some more solid direction, and that's what the cleaning those concepts does with others. So it's a great article for kind of, I don't want to say validation, but kind of affirmation of that being a normal part of the process.
And that's a really good way to put it, I think, too, Mary. When we come here, like I said, we've come from a non-spiritual society. We have come from phase one, or for reality, And we believe, or at least I believed, that my concepts were valid. My concepts were strong and solid because I had the same feelings and concepts and desires that the rest of society had. It's only when we enter the spiritual society that we realize really there's so much more. We need to mature what we were feeling before in order to advance.
The article had made a lot of great points of what you need to do to transition from phase 2 into phase 3. Everything from cleaning concepts to working with your friends, using them as tools to see your reflection, to get the objective view, and much more about, everything going into even cleaning, working with your left and right line and creating that balance and creating that middle line.
The way we wrote the articles to sort of not negate the spiritual society, tries to be very objective, and basically talk about how the feelings that someone experiences when he moves from the state of the spiritual society is everything to sort of nearly an opposite feeling of this is just not working out for me, can be very startling for a person, very hard on them. And this phase, this 2.3 to 2.4 is, are you going to stay on the suffering of how it's not giving you filling anymore, that the spiritual society is not the end all, and that's 2.3? Or are you going to move to 2.4 where you can actually start cleaning concepts and understand that the problem wasn't the spiritual society per se. The problem was that it was very general. So you came in and you learned all these new concepts, but because they were talked in a very general manner and weren't detailed enough, you sort of filled in the gaps with your immature perception and said, oh, I know what love is. And yes, sometimes Rav will say that love is not talking about corporeal love, but in the end, you still convince yourself it's talking about corporeal love. And you sort of say, yeah, but it's spiritual, and that's about it. So it's not that there's a problem in the spiritual society, it's just that the person feels he has a problem. The person feels that he needs more data, he needs more details. And the reason why he suddenly feels that he needs more details and can't just live with very abstract concepts like bestowal and love and egoism is because he's actually got an active point in the heart. And that active point in the heart sort of awakens the ego to say, wait a second, what's going on here? And that, wait a second, what's going on here is basically that active point in the heart, which doesn't want meaning of life, which is the passive point in the heart, which is like, you know why you're suffering? Because of this, 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 and that. Oh, thank you for telling me why. Now I feel great. It's like we're all one, and that's why we're suffering. Oh, great, we're all one. That's why I'm suffering. I feel better now because we're all one. If that's what satisfies you, that's fine. A passive point in the heart, it's fine. If you get an active point in the heart, it's not good enough anymore. Telling you that just because we're all one, you're having to suffer because of the collective, that doesn't cut it anymore. And you actually need to know, okay, how do I advance? How do I actually, why is it that I've been in the society for many years and I haven't actually reached anything? And they always talk about that the next Congress or the next meeting, we'll all reach attainment, and we'll all reach attainment, and we'll all reach attainment. And sort of with the passive point in the heart, you can just basically live in that, continuing cycle of next year it's going to happen, next year it's going to happen, next year it's going to happen. When you get an active point in the heart, you're not willing to wait for next year. You want it now. And you're like, where is my spirituality? And you want it. And then people will normally say to you, oh, that's very egoistic of you. That's terrible. You should, and you just can't help yourself. You're in that situation. You're like, look, I agree with you. It is my egoism. But what am I meant to do? This is how I feel. And negating how I feel is not going to help me. So what the articles have come to say, what you're feeling is valid. What you're feeling is perfect. Because the Creator gave you that feeling as well. Right? The Creator inside you manifested that feeling within you that you felt that it just wasn't good enough anymore. So it's not that you've done anything wrong. And what the group is designed to do is say, this is just part of your advancement. And this is a very natural, evolution. And many people are surprised when I talk to them when they're in 2.3 and I tell them about like clean concepts. They're very surprised, like, wow, how did you know exactly how I feel? It's like, because it's predetermined, it's dictated. The state of 2.3 dictates that you're going to have some kind of suffering or discontent with the society. And it's perfect, but let's move on. Let's move on to a more productive phase, which is 2.4, which is cleaning concepts.
And once a person gets to 2.4, not all people are really prepared to clean some of these pretty hefty concepts about, the creator, being the creator, not being the creator. So, at some point, how do we transition them if that's a huge thing to be able to accept? Because that's the biggest cleaning that you do at 2.4 is you're the creator and learning to feel that.
So it basically comes to the amount of suffering a person feels. If someone's feeling very little suffering, they'll be like, oh, it's just part of the process. Rav told us about this. It's totally okay that I'm feeling like this. What will sort of break you out of that conditioning is if you're suffering too much. Where it's like there's only so much a person can last before he figures, wait a second, I'm really thirsty and I need to drink. And the society said to him, no, don't drink. No, be like the rest of us. This is totally normal. And he gets to a point where I need to drink, I'm thirsty. And he'll basically break out of the society mold when his pain to advance is more important to him than any kind of, I need to be with everybody else, who am I, and all this kind of stuff. When a person says, I'm important, then he can actually advance. But if a person thinks he's not worth anything, then of course he's not going to want to advance, and he'll just want to be equal with everybody else on their lower degree. And for someone to, in the end, become an individual, to become the special one, he has to break out of the mold and understand that he wasn't designed to serve other people, but rather he was designed to use other people to serve himself, to serve the creator within him, to serve his internal power, to use, as it says, everyone was created for me and I was created to serve my master, right? So the idea is that what will decide if someone advances, and someone could advance all the way to like a really high degree and then stop there. So what will decide when someone stops? When their need to advance is not worth the effort. That is, they get to a point where they're just very happy. And it's actually pleasure, you could say, is what stops a person from advancing. And even if someone's suffering, the reason they'll get stuck there is because it's pleasurable. Better the devil you know. That it's pleasurable to stay in your current state and talk of how, it's not your fault, it was the group, you've got all these different things you can blame. It makes you feel good with yourself because then you've got all the excuses and you don't have to actually advance to a state that you're not aware of whether it will be better for you or not. You don't have importance for it. So the only reason people actually plateau or regress or fall into shell is because of pleasure and not because of pain. And that's why that whole story where Bala Salam talks about the king who wanted to invite everybody over to the kingdom, and then had gods to manipulate them, to stop them from coming in. Everyone thinks that the way they did it was with pain, that they were beating them up and only the strongest survived. No, they gave them pleasure. They're like, yeah, of course, come into the kingdom, but let's go have a banquet on the side. Yeah, of course, I want to show you the king, but let's go for a meeting on the side, or let's go to the other kingdom and deal with that, and then we can come and see the king afterwards. So they're always deviated through pleasure. And that pleasure can either come from the society, or it can just be from, let's say, phase one, or it can be from just enjoying the suffering.
I get a feeling too that there are just certain people that are selected to actually continue, and that there's just a good percentage they're just not. That's the feeling I get for now anyway.
It's very, it's more about the quality. So the beginning, it's like in any sort of field, right? The innovators at the beginning are the quality. And then afterwards, it cascades down to quantity. So like think of the first people that had mobile phones. They were very individuals, right? They were like maybe business people, very rich people, they had mobile phones. And then it trickled down to a point where everyone has a mobile phone, where people say, what do you mean you don't have a mobile phone? That means you're dead. Or that means, if you try to call someone and you get an answer that the mobile phone is disconnected, you really get stressed, right? It's like, what happened to the person? So the idea is that something goes always from quality and then cascades down to quantity. And the same will happen with advancement. we're at the beginning where only the quality passed the barrier, but as we're seeing, it will start to grow the number, and that quality will actually, in the end, go into quantity as well.
You think that in the beginning it's the same way that the people that are ready to clean concepts, it's 1% of 1% type of situation right now, just because, just like you could say, spiritual society is 1% of population, and then you could say maybe 1% of that. So it's like 0.1% of the people that are ready to clean concepts.
Yes, definitely. But we'll see that it will grow over time. So that you could say whoever joins at the beginning is only going to be those of high quality. And as time goes by, sort of it will become more ready for the masses, you could say. So for example, we can see when people are advancing, the people that say crossed the barrier, let's say 6 months ago, had very little content that they could actually use to know what to do. And today there's more content, but we're still lacking a lot of content to really, like these 8 set articles that we have from Article 30 to 37 are a great overview from when you're born until you cross the barrier. What we're lacking, we don't have that same 8-part article from the barrier to enter correction. And as people continue to advance and more people reach into correction, then we'll have more content to deal with that. And it will basically become more and more detailed so that a normal person can actually go through all the states and actually reach the end. So it really is like in any breakthrough, in any sort of innovation, you always have the people that sort of get excited at the beginning and they jump on it and they try it out and deal with all the bugs and stuff. And then when, a few iterations in, then it becomes ready for the masses.
Well, Rob mentions that all the time. He has an example of that as well. Like, back in the day, let's say for him, for his mother, his grandparents, whatever, they didn't have laundromat. They didn't have laundry machines and dryers and stuff like that. They would do everything by hand, and it just takes a lot of effort, to do it by hand. And then, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of people, a lot of smart people to come together and create a laundry machine, a dryer machine. You know what I'm saying? It's like sort of, but then the result is you have this product where it just makes it super easy to do the laundry, where now you just press a couple of buttons and bingo bango, you got clean clothes, so, but it's that initial burst of just these people, these, sort of high quality people, as we're, sort of saying it here, to create that system. And it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to create it. But the result is for everybody else, they just get to enjoy it.
Exactly.
Don't you agree that in addition to that, you've created the new washer machine, and because of that, or not necessarily because of that, but surrounding that at the time environment is now requires it. With the way that society is, the situation now requires that something, expedient be able to do the laundry and the drying, because we're all working and we're all busy with other things. So I'm imagining that eventually the progress of humanity is going to, as this continues to evolve and become more refined, humanity is going to be in a position where this system, progress through this system becomes mandatory, becomes necessary in the minds and hearts of people.
And we can definitely see this sort of evolution that happened in system concepts where, at the beginning people were crossing the barrier without classes. We didn't even know the classes. And then we found out about the classes, and then it got to a point where it was mandatory. It's like, you need to know which class you're on, you have to agree with the class you're in and deal with those specifics. So as we're sort of revealing more of these laws, they're going from optional to mandatory.
And
and the sense in the individuals is the sense is like, no, it's important that I know this. It's important that I have this for myself so that I can progress, because it's necessary that I progress for this and this reason. So you're right, the necessity starts to grow in all aspects of it.
Yes, I was also going to add that it is mandatory for the advancement of oneself, meaning to know the class that you are, because you're molded in a particular way, you have a set of tools in a particular way. It's just mandatory to save time on yourself, on your own advancement, meaning if you have to randomly be trying to pick and choose how to clean up a particular concept, and so that is recurring, or this occurring, it helps helps one know how one is what the tools that one is with, so that we don't waste time and be guessing on how to view things in different way, or try this and try that. It's only for our own benefit, I would say.
Yeah, I see that happening. And the people around us will start noticing it. My daughter, she's very aware of what's going on. She's very aware of the transitions that have occurred for me. And she said, she'll voice, and she's still, in phase 1, now maybe phase 2, but she's waiting for summer because she knows that I'm going to have more time available. And that's what I say to her now. I just say, just be ready, be prepared. And she, she has the yearning. She knows until she starts to implement and really internalize the system, the situations that keep, bombarding her are going to continue. And she recognizes that her perception is skewed. And so it's like, this is something that I have to do. I'm going to only take one college course this summer because I'm going to work on this, because this is what's going to align everything else. So it's in her mind, and I just see that more and more happening to more and more people, recognizing, before I even go to college, I'm going to go do this. Or, maybe it's something that a middle school student or high school student recognizes, I recognize that this is what my parents think is important for me to be able to become a human and a guided human, and I need to go through this course, and then boom, you're on your road and you're living your life in a completely different way than what we've seen happening in the past, with a purpose. And it's what a better goal, what a better way to identify what your goals are by being aligned in the system.
We can definitely see that as more and more people cross the barrier and reach results, it will be easy for other people to sort of see this result and say, I want that too. So at the beginning, when we started system concepts, it was like, will this actually work? It's like an experiment. It's like, ha ha. And it's reaching a point where it's like, well, yeah, it's normal. There's actually results. So this is not an experiment anymore. It's becoming, just standard thing. Like, why wouldn't you want to advance? And I'm sure that as, we, currently we don't do, I would say, nearly any dissemination for system concepts. And that's on purpose, because we actually want the people that are in the group to advance and sort of really have a strong group of Kabbalists, a core group. And as we add more and more content, then we'll reach a point where we start, doing more dissemination, actually sharing content and really helping others as well. Well, I think we'll stop here and enter the after party.